Hey mamas, it's Mama Fox. It's 4 p.m. Central on Friday. We made it another week, and quite frankly, the week went by so fast. So I'm hoping for a slowdown on the weekend. Wouldn't that be nice? That would be super great. Oh my goodness, I hope y'all had a great week. I don't even remember the first half of the week anymore, but I will say the last few days here in North Alabama have been pretty nice. It kind of warmed up a little bit. It's a little cool and breezy today, but it's been really nice. I hope y'all have been able to get outside. That is such a key lifestyle habit, is to get outside. And some of y'all, y'all that Coach Sarah living up in Minnesota, and some of y'all living up in there, man, that's cold. I don't know. I know she gets outside. I know she does it. Y'all are awesome. I mean, I'm serious when I say that. I don't know how y'all do that. My little Southern Alabama person, I'm just like, it's 45 degrees outside. Oh, I guess I better stay in. But I'm trying to get better about that. It's so important to get outside. So I hope you've gotten outside this week. That's key. Hey, ladies, y'all tell me if you're here. I love it. It makes me so happy when y'all say hey. I can't always say hey to everybody because it scrolls. And then it's like by the time I have to do like that because I've got my progressive zone. So you get to see me do that so I can see Vicki and Cindy and Linda. I'm so glad y'all are here. So talking about key lifestyle habits, we talk a whole lot about, and you're going to hear me say it's nothing fancy. It's pretty simple. It may not be easy to do, but it is simple. Getting outside, supporting your sleep, hydrating well, feeding your mind with good books and things like that. Those are all key. Food is obviously extremely key. And if you're a stuck mama, slower loser, stubborn loser, if you are over 40, things kind of change and you might have to do things a little differently, or you may be just looking at things a little differently. I know for myself, over this past 10 years as a Trim Healthy Mama, when I started, I had certain goals. And as I've gone through the past 10 years, my goals I think they've actually gotten better. I think that they were very narrow and small in the beginning. Maybe it was just where I was. Maybe I wasn't dreaming big. I don't know. Oh, hey, Jasmine, it's so good to see you. But now, in the last few years, I'm like, oh, I'm not just thinking about the summer body. Not that I ever did, but I'm not just thinking about the summer, what I want to look like in the summer. I'm thinking about, 3 or 4 and 5 and 10 years from now. How do I want to feel? How do I want to move? How do I want to think? All those things. And with that, my journey as a Trim Healthy Mama has definitely been one of trying to manage my arthritis. And many of y'all probably have arthritis too. It's pretty common. But trying to manage my arthritis, manage my pain, my flexibility. And if you have RA or any other type of autoimmune disease, you know that fatigue is a real thing. It can wear you out and just bring you down, make you feel tired, make you feel sleepy, all those things. So that's been a big part of my journey the whole time, but especially in the last few years, I've really been wanting to find out more and more and do more and more with what I can to help support an active, vibrant lifestyle to match me on the inside so that my outsides and insides match up, because y'all can probably tell from some of my videos or interacting with me, I'm kind of like this, I'm kind of all over. And if you have raised inflammation for whatever reason, it can really bring you down, especially if, like I said, especially if you have arthritis or an autoimmune. But that's kind of why talking about beating down inflammation has really become something that it gets me excited. And I really want to share some things with you because I think that it can make a big difference in your journey. Even when you're totally 100% on plan, if you can hear about and learn about some foods that might be just low leveling, raising your inflammation, and just kind of causing some issues and problems that you might not normally think are related to inflammation. If you can become aware of those, and then I promise you, I'm not just going to be gloom and doom all the month of February with what you might want to not eat. I am going to be sharing with you next month, especially what you can and should increase that's delicious and good for you. But if you can become aware of that, then knowledge is power, and you can make better choices for you. And I want to reiterate, this is something I was sharing with my membership mamas today. There's a fine line between, hey Carol, there's a fine line between me trying to share information with you and me like discouraging you and you feeling like, well, I can't eat anything. That's not true. I want you to be able to eat as freely and widely as possible on plan. Absolutely. Hands down. And so I'm going to share some foods today that my membership mamas and I are putting the pause button on. Okay, I didn't say we were getting rid of them forever. We're just pausing them. And I'm going to tell you what they are and why. And with that, you'll see it doesn't mean it's forever. And it doesn't mean that everyone needs to even do it for an extended time. But it's important for you to have that information so that you can decide for yourself, maybe test it out for yourself, and just see what it does. Taking a week or 2 or 3 to not eat a certain food, it's no big deal. It can feel like it, I know. Like if somebody said you got to go 3 weeks without coffee, I'd be like, oh, that would be a big deal. But I could do it. We can do anything for a week or 2 or 3. We can do it. We could do that, right? We can do that. And it might open your eyes. I'm not going to tell y'all not to drink coffee though. Catherine and I already worked that out in the comments earlier today. She was like, is coffee one of those 4? And I'm like, no. And even if it was, I probably wouldn't tell y'all. No, I probably would tell you, but it isn't. It isn't. There's lots of health benefits from drinking coffee, right, Bonita? Bonita knows she likes her coffee too. So lots of good benefits. All right, here are the 4 foods that my membership mamas and I are putting the pause button on for the month of February. And what we're doing is we're doing each of these foods just for a week at a time with the encouragement from Mama Fox to, consider taking the whole month off or consider taking an extra week. But that's up to each individual, of course. All right. Last week, no surprise, last week I talked about it here, dairy. Dairy's the first one. That was what we did last week in the membership group. I talked about it here. If you missed that video, it's still here in the pinned featured post. It's also posted on YouTube now, I think. So you can see that easily if you want to review it. But we put the pause button on dairy. Dairy it's inflammatory, the end. It just is. And I talked last week about, well, what does that mean for my coffee? And what does that mean for my kefir and all that? So you can go listen to that later after this one's done or this weekend for sure. But we put the pause button on dairy. And yes, even if you're not allergic to dairy, you might be sensitive to dairy. And just like the next one I'm going to tell you, it's really more a problem of these things are inflammatory, but they just get overused and over-relied on. That's the issue, okay? The second one that we are breaking free from this week, yes, Stacy, yep. But I'll answer that in just a second. So the second one that we're breaking free from this week is gluten and corn. Yes, even on plan. Okay, actually, that's exactly what we mean. Because in my Unstuck membership group, we are on plan. Like this is a group of smart mamas. There's coaches in that group and there's admins in that group. These are smart mamas in my membership group. We are on plan. We're not even talking I could sit here and tell you, okay, the number 1 food you need to cut out to beat down inflammation is sugar. We're not even talking about that because we are on plan. We're not having sugar. So we're talking about on plan. Again, it might be fine for you. It might be fine. And it might be fine for you on occasion. But gluten and corn both are inflammatory for many, many mamas. And there's lots of reasons why for that. I mean, they're just kind of hard to digest for some. But part of it is the protein in there. And of course, if you have celiacs, you know what I'm talking about. You are allergic. And you know you can't have the gluten. And if you're allergic to dairy, you cannot have it. I'm really speaking more to those of us, like myself, who are not allergic, but we have just found that it raises our inflammation to like kind of a low to moderate level. You know, if you're allergic to something, you know it. And that stinks, but at least you know it. Sometimes you can have food sensitivities, and they're so low level that you might not, it's hard to figure them out because you might not realize it for a long time. That's been my story for my whole journey with Trim Healthy Mama, and I'm going to share one with you in a minute that it hurt my feelings. I'm not happy about it, but I finally had to face the facts and do what's, you know, put my big girl panties on and face the facts. But sometimes if you're like me and you just have sensitivities to certain foods, boy, that can be a real pain to have to unravel and figure out. Have any of y'all ever had to do that? Because I've had to do that several times, and it's annoying, but knowledge is power. And now that I know that gluten does raise my inflammation, that doesn't mean I might not have it by choice, because I'm not allergic. I might still have a piece of sprouted bread on occasion. But what it does mean is that if I want to feel my best and think my best and move my best and have my best mood and all the things, then I'm not going to have it every day. And that's where the real power comes into. And that is so why my membership mamas and I are doing that this month. It's these foods, and so the reasons are these foods are inflammatory that I'm sharing with you for many mamas. And we tend to over rely on them. It's like I mentioned last week, it's so easy just to grab a chunk of cheese. It's so easy just to have some yogurt or cottage cheese. It's easy. You don't have to cook it. You just scoop it or slice it or whatever. Same with gluten and corn. You know, you can just grab it and it's easy. And so sometimes you may still choose to do that, but it causes us to really grab it and over rely on it. And that just stacking all that up can happen so fast. So for example, this is what I was talking to my membership mamas about. You may start out with a bowl of Greek yogurt in the morning as part of your breakfast. And then at lunch, you decide, you know, I'm going to have this whatever, and I want to have a protein shake with whey protein powder in it. And then maybe for dinner, you have a really like cheeseburger casserole with cheese in it and maybe some other dairy. I kind of forget because I haven't made it in so long. And the next thing you know, you've had dairy at every single meal. And it was different dairy, and you might not even think about it. And those are all on plan. And they can still be a part of your plan if you're not allergic. But to have that much dairy every day, because a lot of mamas are doing that every day, and they're wondering why they're stuck and why they're stalled out, and they're wondering why their inflammation is up. It's that right there. It's that stacking that's happening day after day because it is so easy. And that can happen with the gluten too, because you're having, you know, a couple of slices with your sandwich, with your on-plan E sandwich. And then maybe you're having some wasa that has gluten in it. Just depends on what kind you're using, I guess. And maybe you're having then the corn because you're having some popcorners too. Or maybe you're having some baked blue corn chips. And it's just a stacking of those grains that are inflammatory. And if you had had just one serving every once in a while, it probably wouldn't have been a big deal. So I just want you to be aware of that over-reliance and that stacking of it. And then the third reason, before I share the rest of the foods, because you're not going to like one of these, I'm sure. The third reason that we're doing this in my membership group is to kind of have a reset. I mentioned this last week. Sometimes it's really just wise to take a break from a food that you're overdoing, just to kind of reset and be like, whoa, I am having dairy every time I turn around. I'm not allergic. I can have dairy. I love it. But wow, not every day, not 3 meals a day. And so you can, let's see. Okay, Stacy, plant protein powder over oh yeah. I have switched to the Creamy Dreamy, or I either use the Creamy Dreamy if I have it, and there's another one that, oh my gosh, I think it was Jasmine. Jasmine, was that you? I'm pretty sure Jasmine, that was on here a second ago, Coach Jasmine told me about a different one that I've been buying on Amazon. It just depends. I love them both, but you know, sometimes I'm out of the THM one. So I I did switch that one from the whey just to bring my dairy down. And honestly, I love the Creamy Dreamy or the hemp protein powder. I love it. Love it. I think it's delicious. And so I have done that. And you keep in mind though, now this is Mama Fox, because Mama Fox got to take care of Mama Fox. Y'all might can have it for real. And I use the whey protein powder for my husband because he can have that. I do have RA, so I have to be extra careful about inflammation. My body, it wants to go to inflammation. It just wants to be inflamed. So I have to really put my guard gates up big time. And so that is, I do want you to keep in mind, that's where I'm speaking from, is that point of being extra careful. But again, it doesn't mean I'm not going to have some dairy sometimes. Like if you think I'm never going to eat a tortilla chip again, oh, y'all don't know me that well. Heather knows me. Heather knows I go big or go home on the tortilla chips. I ain't having 6. I am not counting out 6 chips. I'm going to have them. But that's going to be like special treat, rare occasion. I go big or go home. Okay. So just keep that in mind. That's where I'm talking from, but definitely. Okay, Marsha, I will try to, I don't know if I have any right now, but I can look that up about that other protein powder. It is so delicious. And I don't know if Jasmine is still here, but she is who got me using that sometimes. So we've got our dairy. We talked about that last week. We've got our gluten and our corn. And one of the issues I want you to think about, this is what I share with my membership mamas, the ingredients that our gluten products and our corn products are made with, the crops, they're just not like what they were 100 years ago or 200 years ago. They're not the same. They're not the same. And so I know it would be really easy to say, well, they had bread in the Bible, Mama Fox. Yes, they did. It ain't nothing like Aldi's sprouted bread. Ain't even the same. Y'all know it ain't. And so we got to be careful about that because yes, they had it. Totally different, made differently, processed differently, made from a whole nother level of grains. Okay, so just be cautious about that if you're grappling with inflammation. If you're not sure if you're grappling with inflammation, because it ain't all about joint pain. That's just one side effect from inflammation. It can be lots of other things. We talk about that in my anti-inflammatory workshop. It can be all sorts of things. But if you're grappling with stubborn weight, if you're grappling with, and you're doing all the right things and you're eating on plan and it ain't moving and you're still not feeling your best, these are some foods to take a look at, a hard look. And maybe take a break, see how you're feeling, and then you can include them back in small amounts. We talked about that with the dairy last week. All right. Number 3, peanut flour. Don't run away, y'all. Don't run away, peanut flour. We're taking a break. That's what we're doing next week in my membership group. We're taking a break we're actually going to take a break from peanuts, peanut butter, but peanut flour is the real big one. Yes, it's on plan. Yes, I've used it for a long time. Probably I'll use it again, maybe. But this is the one where I finally had to just face the facts that it was raising my inflammation and it was making, with RA, you have little joints that hurt, and I was using it daily. So again, I wasn't thinking about that being one that might raise my inflammation. It just wasn't on my radar. And so I was definitely using peanut flour daily, just in some way. I was either making Coach Canada's Real Deal peanut butter, which I love. I'll probably make it again someday, but I love it. I was using it in my protein shake mix, which I have just about every day. Maybe I was having it in a salad dressing that uses peanut flour. I was having it at least once a day, almost every day. And so again, that was maybe an over-reliance on something that actually is inflammatory. Those of you who are allergic to peanuts, like truly allergic to peanuts, or someone who is, that it's the protein in the peanut that causes the allergy, or that the allergy is too. It's not the oil. It's the protein. And so when we have our defatted protein flour, it's concentrated. It's concentrated peanut protein. And so for me, I'm just telling you about me, okay? Do with it what you want. I can have some peanut butter here and there, and that doesn't really cause me a big issue that way. Now, it'll stall my weight out, because when I say I have some peanut butter, I have some peanut butter. Like, I'm going in. I'm not having a teaspoon of peanut butter. I'm not going to have a teaspoon of peanut butter. Why would you do that? Just kidding, but really, I would never do that. But I'm gonna have some. But the peanut butter doesn't cause me a big problem. But the peanut flour, day in and day out, here and there, it was adding up, and I realized that my joints in my toes, by the end of the day and the next morning, were just they were aching so bad, so creaky. So I had to face that fact. Now, again, that may not be you. You may be able to have it every day. And that would be what I'd want for you. I would want you to be able to eat as freely as possible. I'm just sharing this with you so that you can be aware. And if you're having some issues and struggles and you're not sure what's going on, you can take, a week or 2 or 3 off from that and then see how you feel. And if you don't feel any different, okay. If you feel better, think about it and maybe have it on occasion. Okay. All right. The last one that my group is taking a break from, okay, just a break, is highly processed meat. That's probably no surprise. And yes, even meat that's 2 grams of carbs or less, or 1 gram of carb or less, whatever the rule is, I always forget, but it's something like that. Even the ones that are low carb, because you're looking for low carb processed meats because that'll have less filler and less sugar and less gunk, right? And yes, I still buy those and I still use them and I still use them for my family. I don't consume them as often as my family, and I have to be really careful about that, but we're going to be taking a break for 1 week with thank you, Jasmine, I never can remember. Never can. We're going to be taking a break from the processed meat, and that's because of several things. Typically, highly processed meat, we're talking about highly processed, the kind that has fillers, the kind that has nitrates, the kind that we're looking at the gram zone, okay? First of all, those are typically not going to be organic or grass-fed, okay? So with that, keep it in mind that corn thing I talked about earlier, those animals are being fed, completely completely GMO, slathered corn, slathered in all kind and sprayed and all kind of stuff. They're not being fed well. So whatever that cow or pig or whatever is eating, you're going to be eating that too. Keep that in mind. So again, that's where corn can really be more prevalent in our diet than we realize because we're eating what that animal ate. So that's a problem. But also just different nitrates, that's a known carcinogen, which means it causes cancer. And of course you can have some on occasion. I'm still going to have some on occasion, but daily, day in and day out, not good. Not good at all. Then also you've got your fillers in there. And that is where I've seen, even in my 2 of my daughters, where they've realized, okay, this meat, this sausage or whatever, it doesn't make me feel very good. And it wasn't like it was the most horrible sausage in the world, but it was the different fillers or the MSG. Oh, heavens to Betsy, MSG. And thankfully, one of my girls, and honestly, she loves a good junk food. She never met a junk food she didn't like hardly. But thankfully, she realized that MSG is a major issue for her. I've never noticed it, but then when I think about it, I don't think I eat a lot of MSG. I certainly don't bring foods with it in the house much at all. But she's had some circumstances where she's eaten food like that have MSG, and it makes her ache all over. And so if you're buying sausage patties or sausage links or maybe certain types of hot dogs perhaps, but take a look, because you might be like me and you're just looking at that carb count to see if it fits on plan. And I get that because that's a good indicator for those of us who are drive-through Sue's. If you're buying processed meat, you're not a purist, heads up, right? So you may just be looking at that carb count to see if it's just 1 or 2 carbs, but you might be missing some really important ingredients that are not helping you feel your best. And it could be things like I said, the fillers, the MSG, different things like that. Just take a hard look at that and keep that in mind. Now, I'm telling you all that knowing that, first of all, grocery prices they're so sad. Grocery prices are tough anyway. They have been tough. And if you're trying to buy better meat, it's really tough. And it has been for years anyway. It really stinks. But that's where you may still reach for that processed meat that fits on plan, but it might have some things in it that aren't ideal. But again, we're talking about thinking about this as a don't over rely on it, don't have it all the time. And so on occasion is really not going to be that big of a deal. On occasion is not that big of a deal if you're not allergic, right? It's over relying on it, doing it day in, day out, every day. I mean, several times a week. That's what we're talking about if you're having problems with inflammation or stubborn, stuck weight, okay? So I hope that helps. Again, that's some things that we're just kind of putting the pause button on in my membership group for the month of February. And then in March, we're going to be focusing on some major inflammation fighter foods. And I'll share those with you too, because it's one thing to say, okay, stop doing these, decrease these, but we can also do a lot for our inflammation and our health goals and our weight when we focus on increasing certain particular foods that are known not just to be good, not just to be helpful, not just to be neutral, but actually fight inflammation. So that's really important too. So we'll talk about that next month more. I hope this was helpful. I don't want it to be just doom and gloom. I want to give you some important knowledge so you can make good choices and make some maybe decisions about, okay, taking a break. Here's what I would say. You don't have to take a break from all 4 of these at the same time. You can do that. And you certainly can. Okay, you're strong, grown-up women. Y'all can do this. But you might want to just say, okay, for 2 weeks, I'm going to go dairy-free. And then maybe later, for 2 weeks, I'm going to go gluten and corn-free. And just see. It's kind of nice to see that how that changes what you eat and how you feel. So keep in mind, it's not like it's all or nothing. It's not like you have to do it all at one whack. But just keep these foods in mind. Dairy, gluten and corn, peanut, especially peanut flour, and processed meat. Keep those 4 in mind for just some things that you might be able to fine tune and tweak and maybe not over rely on down the road to really make a difference in your journey, okay? All right, mamas, oh my gosh, that was a little longer than I meant to be, but I hope that was helpful. Go look at the dairy video from last week. I think you'll find that one very interesting, and I do share ways you can still have your kefir and your coffee and all your things because those are precious. And I hope you have a great weekend. And I am gonna go. I think we're gonna grill out. It's not warm here, but it's almost warm enough to grill. So I think we're gonna grill and have some yummy food tonight, just as a surprise. I hope y'all have a great weekend, and I will see y'all next Friday. Bye bye.